Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Paul Pogba or Jose Mourinho, who is more important to Manchester United now and in the future? But I want to just say, first of all, this is utterly embarrassed as a Manchester United fan this morning that we're meant to be talking about football. The Premier League season has started and the pantomime circus continues around Manchester United. We should be used to it. This is the way it always is at United, but it is a joke. It is ridiculously embarrassing, like I said, to be in this situation whereby we have our most iconic player and our manager potentially having another bust-up. So let me give you a little bit of a background for those people aren't aware, and then we'll get into your comments, because the most important thing beyond the board, beyond the players, beyond the manager is you, the fans. It's the fans that decide. It's the fans whose opinion that matters most. And I want to really get to the bottom of what you think about this and what's more important. And I think it's also important to look short-term and long-term at Manchester United. So, Neil Custis writes for The Sun. Now, a lot of people have a problem with The Sun, quite rightly so. Historically, there are issues there, especially for Liverpool fans. However, if you know anything about Neil Custis, yes, he was slagged off by Van Gaal and Sir Alex Ferguson, I think, banned him once, but he actually is pro-Mourinho. He's a pro-Mourinho journalist and pro-Manchester United. Obviously, he's got a living to make, and most journalists do. So what's he said this morning that, it was last night actually, that Jose Mourinho, Paul Pogba had a bust-up after the Leicester game. Mourinho not happy with the comments that Paul Pogba made, which I can sort of understand, and Mourinho telling him not to do that again, and if he's not happy, to put a transfer request in again. Paul Pogba's come back with, well, if you want to speak to me like that again, you can speak through my agent. So, a pretty severe bust-up, which doesn't make a lot of sense from Neil Custis to do that when he's pro-Mourinho, and that's going to put a lot more pressure onto Jose Mourinho. Subsequent to that, this morning, James Cooper, who works for Sky Sports, has been contacted by the club, which is pretty unprecedented. And I'll read out what James Cooper said. So James Cooper said, United have spoken to me this morning and they are angry. They're incensed. They're telling me there was no bust-up between Mourinho and Pogba. The reports of this are absolute nonsense. The relationship between the two people is good. Now, great. Let's take that as face value and let's ignore what Neil Custis said. Of course, the reality is, and the truth, is probably somewhere in between. The easiest way for this to be solved, and many Manchester United fans have said this over the last couple of weeks, and I've said it as well, Paul Pogba comes out, says, I haven't got a problem with Jose Mourinho, I'm really excited about the season. Loads of players do it, kills it dead. Instead, we're left in this grey area where there's potentially been another bust-up. We know last season that Pogba wasn't happy, and Pogba himself, let's be fair, I love Paul Pogba, he is what Manchester United's all about, but Pogba hasn't helped this situation with the vague subliminal messages he's been putting out. The end of last season, I don't talk to Jose, he's not really approachable, I just get on with the job. Friday, players, fans, I'm behind them, nothing about the manager. So it's not been, he doesn't help the situation and he can kill it dead. Paul Pogba can finish this now. Mourinho's no victim in all of this either. We know that Jose's handling of players is somewhat archaic and he needs to be calmer in his relationships with the players. But the club are not going to issue a statement saying it's true. All they can do is deny it. The fact that they've denied it, though, when they don't deny we're after Bale, they don't deny we're after Ronaldo, they don't deny we're after Lewandowski, they don't deny a lot of things, the club. So for the club to come out about this, I applaud, but as we all know, the damage is done. It doesn't matter whether the club come out and, people will be saying, oh, they protest too much because they're trying to limit the damage. Look, the club are denying it. The journalist stands by it. Pogba's been very, very avoiding the situation with Mourinho. There is no smoke without fire, but the reality is Manchester United club, I agree, coming out and trying to stop it and kill it because they have to. Somebody's got to take control in the void between Pogba and Mourinho. And we don't know how big that void is. It might be a jumpable void. It might be a gorge. It might be not jumpable. It might be unattainable. And this is where the club have got to come out and be a lot stronger. Because Pogba's not going to be sold. Jose Mourinho is the Manchester United manager. In the short term, I believe... Well, let's have a look at what you lot have to say. But I just think that this... What do you think? I in the top right hand corner, you can cast your poll. It's not really, I don't really want to get into the bust up because we don't know whether that's true or not. But we do know there is I'm choking. There is definitely an issue between Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba. It's abundantly clear. It's just how big that issue is. And actually, You cannot have a situation where the best player in the team and the manager don't get on. It doesn't matter whether you're Pogba or Jose. I'm Manchester United. That is not good for my team to have the manager and the player not getting on. That has to be resolved. Normally these situations are resolved with the player leaving. That cannot happen. It could happen with the manager walking away. Again, I don't see that happening. So how do we resolve this? And what is better for the club in the long term? I think in the long term, if they paper the cracks, we might be all right for a short term. But in the long term, one of these has got to be backed, either Pogba or Mourinho. Which way would you go? And I suspect I know which a lot of them are going to go. But in the short term, we've got a game against Brighton on Sunday. Then we've got Spurs. We are already backs to the wall this Premier League season. For some reason, we finished second last year. It's like we finished on the edge of the relegation zone because everyone's laughing at us, everyone's mocking at us, everyone's putting us outside the top four. We're ready to go to war, United fans. We want to back Mourinho, we want to back the team, we want to go for it. But you can't have a siege mentality when within the castle there is arguments. You know, they're ready to chuck each other out. You know, they're fighting inside and our rivals are just sort of walking through the front door. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And ultimately, for me, it comes down to the lack of leadership within the club. The lack of leadership on transfers, which was embarrassing because Mourinho didn't get backed. The lack of leadership from Mourinho in the way that he embarrasses his players and divides. And the lack of leadership from the players who put messages out. Well, I'm always going to give the best for my teammates and the fan. But there is a manager and there is a board. We are Manchester United. The clue is always in the name, United, and we must be United. And it's all right, the board saying Martial's not leaving. Don't care if he gets on with Mourinho or not. He's not leaving. Pogba's not leaving. Don't care if he gets on with the manager or not. That's not good enough. That's not leadership. Pogba's not leaving and we're bloody sorting out this issue with the manager. Martial's not leaving because you're exactly the sort of player we want and we're bloody sorting out this issue with the manager. Let's not say you're not leaving and we back Jose. Quick, head in the sand. Quick, head in the sand. Leave him to it. Leave him to it. Because that's what it feels like at the moment. We need some bloody leadership. That is what we need. Devil's Aces says, I want to see Zidane. I think he's going to be another Pep somewhere for 3 years and needs a fresh challenge. With Pochettino, just seems more longevity. Pogba, Martial, Shaw, Rashford are worth more than Jose. Get Jose away from the club. He's poison, says Carl Baker. Mourinho's man management is rubbish, says Scott Thompson. Breaking news, Mark Goldbridge for Director of Football at Manchester United says 20. I tell you what, I think we've got over 1,000 Director of Footballs on the live comments. I think what pains me so much about Manchester United at the moment is we're chucking out comments through Sky Sports denying the Pogba-Mourinho rift. But everyone knows there's a rift. It's just how deep that rift is. Instead of putting out things publicly, it's like the other day, Gary Neville, somebody put a tweet out about Gary Neville at a Salford game and said, I can't believe Gary Neville, he just pushed past my son and ignored me for an autograph. It was complete nonsense and it was obviously a joke. But Gary Neville saw it, replies to it and says, I would never do anything like that. And you think, that's just going to make the lie worse. Sometimes a denial of something after the horse has already bolted, it's too late. And this Pogba-Mourinho bust-up, whether it happened or not, United fans will be fearful of it. It doesn't matter whether the club deny it or not, we will be fearful of it. And that is the problem that United are facing, is that the leadership is lacking. I would not have put anything out if I was United. I would not have contacted Sky. Of course they're going to deny it. Don't deny it. Just speak to Paul Pogba, tell Paul Pogba to deny it, and that will finish everything. Why won't Paul Pogba come out and deny it? Why wouldn't Paul Pogba come out after the Man City game when Pep Guardiola said on the Friday night, I was offered Paul Pogba by Mino Raiola in January? We play Man City the next day. Paul Pogba scores 2 goals and puts his hands to his mouth. Shh. Some United fans want to be positive and say, I interpret that shush as he didn't do it. He wasn't offered out. But a shush doesn't mean anything. It's just shush. It could mean, shush, Man City fans, I've scored 2 goals. What Pogba should have come out and done was, I wasn't offered to Man City in January. Why didn't he do that? What Pogba could do now is come out and say, there is no rift with Mourinho. I love this club. I'm behind the manager. We've got an exciting season ahead. How hard is it to do that? Why won't he do that? Hopefully he will do that because it will finish everything. Absolutely everything. All this infighting amongst the fans has escalated under Mourinho, says Andy McGow. I mean, that is true and sad. Football isn't about religion. No, it isn't. I don't know who's on about that. Pogba did the same thing with Sir Alex. It's his ego, not Jose, says Angad Rai. I like that comment because I want to get, this is the whole point of being live, I want to get different people's opinions and different views is good. Bring in Giggsy. He knows the DNA of the club. It's running through his veins, says Leighton Charles. And hi Mark, first time I've said this, but if this story is true, Jose has to go. Enough is enough, says Andy Knight. But does Jose Mourinho have to go? You know what? I like playing devil's advocate on the United stand. That's what I'll do. I don't always portray my opinion. I just chuck something out there for you lot to chew on. And chew on this. What about if you're the manager of Manchester United, right? First game of the season, you make Pogba captain, you want to turn over a new leaf, you've looked at it over the summer and thought, I've not handled this situation well, he's been fantastic in the World Cup, I want to get the best out of him, I want to repair this relationship, I'm going to make him captain. I spoke about him all the way before the game, superhuman, he's only been back training the same days as Jesse Lingard, who couldn't even make the bench, nothing against Jesse there. Lukaku only just made the bench. Fellaini could only give him 10 minutes. Pogba, who went further than everybody because he won the World Cup, he's back starting a game for 70 minutes. Mourinho tells us how great Pogba is. He talks about how great Pogba was after the game. He gives him the captaincy. Paul Pogba then goes to the press, doesn't praise Mourinho, drops loads of subliminal bombs about the relationship. That then turns into a negative again. Jose Mourinho would be right to take Pogba into a room and say, stop doing that sort of thing in public because I don't got a problem with you talking in public. I can't stop you doing that. But by not mentioning the relationship and sort of feeding the bad relationship when we're trying to turn a new page, I back Mourinho on that. I don't like the way Mourinho has behaved last season. I don't like the style of football. But from a manager point of view, he would be right to pull Pogba into that room. It's not helpful what Pogba did on Friday night. It was refreshing for us, the fans, but it wasn't helpful to what we're trying to build. And to be honest with you, get your comments in. Which way do you go? Pogba or Mourinho? Who's best for the future of Manchester United? Well, for me, it's easy. It's Pogba, because Pogba is a flair player and Mourinho doesn't play the right style of football for Manchester United. So in the long term, it's got to be Pogba. But I think in the short term, we need both. Long-term looking club hiring a short-term looking manager, there's bound to be conflicts, says Steve Y. Good comments. And Imrano TV, if Sir Alex Health can manage it, he should sit Martial, Jose, Pogba, Mina down, then clip him round the ear to end this. You know what? A fit and healthy Sir Alex Ferguson is all that matters, but if he was fit and healthy, I think he could do this. Mehul Sane says Mourinho is leaving. I worry about that statement. I worry about Jose Mourinho leaving this club because he won't leave before he started a fire. And maybe not inadvertently starting a fire, but he's not going to walk out while the going's good. And at the moment, United, it's okay. I don't want the 2 or 3 bad results and the turning and Mourinho walking away. If he's going to go, just go now. There are enough reasons for him to be unhappy. Wasn't backed by the board. Pogba, big figure. I mean, Pogba's got so much power. You know what? The director of football, very quickly, I don't want to get into that, but a couple of years ago, even a year ago, I think Mourinho said he doesn't want a director of football, and the club didn't really have an appetite for a director of football because it undermines the manager. Now they want one. So effectively, they want to undermine the manager. They didn't back him in the summer. Pogba, the most powerful player and best player at the club, knows he's got the club by the balls and he's twisting Mourinho's, knowing that he's in a position of power. The worst United can do to Paul Pogba is sell him. And what if he wants to be sold? I don't believe for 1 minute that Paul Pogba will ever put a transfer request in, because if he did, Mourinho wins. Which is the part of the story from Neil Custis that really resonated with me. When we go back to what that story was, that they'd had a bust-up after the game because Mourinho wasn't happy about what was said in the public. Well, I bet Mourinho wasn't happy about what was said in public. And then during that discussion, Mourinho said, if you're not happy, put a transfer request in again. And that word of again, which goes back to him leaving to go to Juventus, but also, Mourinho would be in a very strong position if Paul Pogba's put a transfer request in, because we as fans would feel absolutely betrayed by Paul Pogba to put a transfer request in. No matter whether it's about relationships or not, it was a little bit different with Martial. With Pogba, it would be the second time. It would not be acceptable and he would not be liked by United fans. So Pogba cannot put a transfer request in. If he does, Mourinho wins. So how do you resolve this situation? It needs the leadership in the middle. I was speaking about this morning. it's unfair to get someone like Michael Carrick to do it because he's only just going into management. But Michael Carrick would be perfect. Pogba loves Carrick. He speaks about him positively all the time. Mourinho has promoted Carrick, so he obviously respects Carrick. Carrick knows the identity and DNA of the club, and he knows what is required of a player, and he's now moving into management. Carrick is probably the number one person to solve this issue. They need to sit down. If I could sit them down, RC1 Rom 30 says disagree. Pogba could see it as fake from Mourinho. Okay, but if I could sit them down in a room, I would say this. I would say, look, you don't need to like each other. Cole and Sheringham couldn't stand each other, but they scored loads of goals. It doesn't matter. This is a game. This is a professional, high-end sport, and results matter. And we must all be playing for the same thing, which is the badge on the chest. I'm hitting the wrong one. So I would be saying to them, look, you don't need to get on with each other, but you probably will get on with each other if you stop fighting. The reality is, it's a short-term thing. Paul Pogba might be gone in a year. Mourinho certainly might be gone in a year. Paul Pogba, you're not going to be solved. Mourinho, do you want the sack? Neither of you want them things to happen. So, the next season, it's beneficial for you if you're doing well, Pogba, and it's beneficial for you, Mourinho, if you're doing well. Work together in a professional capacity. Use me as the go-between, Michael Carrick. I'll be the friends of both of you. You two just don't have any, other than professional chat. No more digging each other out. Nothing else in the press. Let's be Manchester United. Let's keep it in-house. And yes, there's a problem, but let's deal with it professionally and go together forward. And this is the problem at Manchester United, that many people who've been fans for a long time or understand management or understand what Manchester United should be about are absolutely embarrassed about, is the constant. It happened with Martial, it happened with Shaw, it's now happening with Pogba. Stop it. Keep it in-house and stop it. I don't care what goes on behind closed doors. What I do care is the embarrassing nature of this going off again. And the club's denial is too late. They should have dealt with this a long, long time ago. Mourinho and Pogba these stories should not be existing at the start of a Premier League season. They shouldn't happen at all. Zachary Purvis says, is there a chance that any or all of this just Jose and the players behind the scenes building the negativity on purpose, create a siege mentality? No, Zachary. I don't know what people on the live comments think, but I don't think so. You don't purposely put stories out in the press that there's been a bust up, because it just poisons the fan base, which isn't a good thing. You don't want to poison the fan base. From these stories today, true or false, some people will not be happy with Pogba, but a lot more people will be unhappy with Mourinho. That doesn't help. So I can see where you're coming from, Zachary, and sometimes stories will be put out there, but not a story like this, unfortunately. And the problem with this story is, like I said, is that the press don't like Jose, and I'm very, very suspicious of any story that comes out from the press about Manchester United. But Neil Custis isn't anti-Mourinho. That's the interesting thing. Jack says, Pogba has to stay, bring in Zidane, hire a director of football and start playing attractive football after what I saw from the World Cup. Pogba captain. Jack, that is the long-term solution. I agree with you on that. My personal opinion, I don't know whether everybody else does, I agree with what Jack says there. The long-term plan, director of football, Pogba captain, new manager who plays the United way, yes. I agree with all that. Are any of those things achievable in the short term? I don't think so. I think we've got to go with what we've got until it goes bad. And it might not go bad, but that's my perceiving about it. Russell says, if Pogba himself thinks he's bigger than Jose or the club, then I'd rather Pogba goes. But if you ask me as a fan, of course, I'd rather Pogba stays over Jose. What a brilliant comment that is from Russell. Ryan says, we would be in a worse position if Pogba left. If Pogba left right now, our midfield would be crap. If Mourinho left, we would get another manager instantly like Zidane and play better football. Yeah, Ryan, that's a severe knee-jerk reaction for the club to make, and I don't think they'll make it, but we can't and we won't lose Pogba for the reason you've just said there. Craig Melville, and when Pogba doesn't like Zidane, does Zidane need to go? What a good comment. You've got to address the fact that the manager is the manager. You're a very good comment as well. Mourinho is the manager and Pogba needs to respect that, says the Delta 57. Sort of a follow-on from that. Pogba will stay if we get Allegri. It's a Star Wars geek. Well, Allegri's style of football is not that good. I don't think that would make people happy. Sell Pogba to Liverpool, says Neil Ash. Well, you're not a proper Liverpool fan if you take a United player. I've said that before. Jose criticises everyone, but Jose doesn't like being criticised, says Andy. I pay my money to be entertained by Manchester United, not to watch boring, lazy, crap football that Jose likes, says Lida. And Jose is choosing the wrong fight again, says Gazel Cesar. Well, this is one of the things that I wanted to see change this season. Mourinho needs to stop picking the stubborn fight. Don't go against Pogba. Don't go against Martial. You know, these are fan favourites. You're going to lose. Unless you're playing scintillating, brilliant football and you're coasting at the top of the league, you can't take on a fan favourite. But Mourinho is the special one in his head, and he will do that. Conversely, he backs people who aren't fan favourites, like Phil Jones and Fellaini. He's got it the wrong way round. But I do sympathise with Jose, because I think what he did last week is he really did publicly try to mend the Pogba situation. He spoke so positively about him. He gave him the captaincy. He spoke positively about him after the game, and then Pogba went and did that, sort of threw him under the bus a little bit. So I do sympathise with Jose a little bit. But having said that, can you put a plaster over an open wound? We don't know how big the wound is with Pogba from the damage that was done last season. So it swings and roundabouts. I hope Van der Sar is our director of football, says Alan Bunce. And Sanchez should play as striker, says Charles. Well, we're going to do the preview tonight. I was going to do the preview now, but we've pushed it back to tonight to do this. Mourinho deserves everything he gets because he constantly come in the media and criticises play for final. Someone is stand up till someone stands up, says Shane Mongan. I think I read that out a little bit wrong. Lost it myself. No player should be untouchable. Yep, I agree with that. Too little, too late, says Nick. And if Fellaini said that he wouldn't say anything, says X-Smashers. Well, Fellaini had a pop at United in the press back in May. Mourinho did nothing. So you're not wrong there. Never thought I would miss the LVG era, says L.E. Gator. Well, I don't, to be honest. And people complaining about Pogba sending subliminal messages, but where were these same blind fans when Jose slated Shaw and Martial, says Andrew Morsky. You know what, there's no right and wrong, you're right. Lucas Leather says, as Mark says, the problems are on both sides and the guys need to sort it out to help each other. Question is, do they have the mindset to do that? And I think that is the thing I would put out to you lot as well, is that if there is a problem between Pogba and Jose, we should actually be angry with both of them. Because do you really give a shit about Paul Pogba? Do you really give a damn about Jose Mourinho? I'll tell you what, I do to a certain extent, but actually the most important thing is Manchester United. And this is about two egos, and we are Manchester United. We spoke about this before. Would Manchester United become Mourinho United? Is it becoming Pogba United? We're Manchester United. This should be kept out of the papers, behind closed doors, and resolved if we had proper leadership at the club. But I don't think Woodward, the Glazers, whoever else is on the board, I don't think they've got the authority, knowledge, or leadership to resolve this issue. And for a club like Manchester United, that is ridiculously embarrassing. You've got two massive egos, Pogba and Mourinho. I've got no problem with big egos, because big egos win big prizes. But somebody needs to resolve that issue. We can't lose Pogba. And I think it would be a disaster to lose Mourinho at the moment. So that's the problem. We lack the leadership within the club. We lack the leadership on the pitch as well. But we certainly lack the leadership in the club. To be talking about which side we're going, Pogba or Mourinho, is actually really sad. Because Manchester United is what it's all about. It may come to a point of, and as the title said, who's more important to Manchester United right now? Let's get it in the live comments. My theory is, who's important to Manchester United right now? They're both important to Manchester United right now in the immediate future. Who's important to Manchester United in the future? I don't necessarily think either of them will be here in a year's time. I think Pogba will do his 3 years and go. I think Jose might go. So we might not have either. But actually, in the long term, Pogba's more important because Mourinho has never been anywhere longer than 3 years, and his style of football really doesn't suit United. What Mourinho was brought here to do was to win a Premier League title, and I hope he can do it this year. But things like this, in the first week of the Premier League season, everyone's laughing at us. Really, they are. Forget Pogba. Jose thinks he's bigger than the club, says RC1 Rom 30. Rogvi says he backs Pogba 100%. Pogba loves the club. Jose loves himself, says Gabriel Medina. Paul Robinson, consequences of losing Mourinho, really? I think there would be, Paul. I think if Mourinho left tomorrow, there would be consequences. In the sense that I know people are going to jump in, and you might, Paul, as well, and say Carrick could do a better job. Then you get Zidane in a couple of weeks. But losing your manager at the start of the season, no matter what happens, unsteadies the ship. It would, for me, that would be no more try. I mean, we're probably not going to win the title anyway, but I certainly don't think you win the title if you lose your manager in the first couple of weeks. And also, I don't think Jose would go in the first couple of weeks anyway. I think this would be a long, drawn out affair. What we need is some bloody leadership. Mourinho's the manager for this season. Pogba's here for this season. What we're going to see now is, if there is a bust-up, we're going to see Valencia back at captain, who couldn't lead a pack of ants to a picnic, and certainly wouldn't even know what language to speak to them. Then you're going to have Pogba, who's like committed to his teammates and committed to the fans, but not committed to Mourinho's vision. You've got Mourinho's going to have the hump and start playing Fellaini. You know, we're going to go back to where we were last season, which is why, whatever's going on, I hope the club are right. I hope the club are right in saying there is a good relationship between the two. And I hope we see in tomorrow's press conference with Jose a little bit of clarity on that, because he'll surely be asked about it. But I think the truth is somewhere in between. I think United's total denial, which is unusual, is odd. And I think where this story's come from doesn't make sense, because it's not an anti-Mourinho source. So the truth is probably somewhere in between. And beyond what United have said and beyond what Neil Custis has said, I still think the most important thing is what Paul Pogba has said, or what he hasn't said. Paul Pogba's been very vocal, and he hasn't backed Mourinho. He hasn't slated him either, but that would be a silly move. I think Paul Pogba's very good on social media. He's got Instagram, he's got Twitter. One tweet. And maybe there has been a bust-up. And maybe there was a bust-up at the weekend. And maybe since then, the club have sorted it out, and now everyone's on the same page. And if that is the case, Paul Pogba put a tweet out, we all feel united and happy, and we go our separate ways. That's what we need, because we need to focus on the bloody football. We do. It's embarrassing. We need to be focusing on the football. And, you know, how many other clubs have this? Are Salah and Klopp falling out? Are Pep and Silva falling out? No. Are Pochettino and Kane falling out? They're the equivalents. That's why it's embarrassing. They are the equivalents. Swap Pogba with Dembele, says Chi Bambio. And Fellaini fan in Manchester, Jose Mourinho, says Alan Bunce. Right. Anyway, there is a poll in the top right-hand corner. Give us your poll. Give us your comments below. I'm sure we're going to get loads. So if you are watching live, you can actually start commenting below now. You don't have to wait a bit. The comments section is open underneath to leave a comment, to endure, and people to start the debate. I'm very interested to see what people have got to say. Thanks everyone for watching. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. I want to do more of these this season. A sort of interactive 25-minute debate on big issues for United. And hopefully this won't be a big issue, but I think it needs some leadership. And we're back at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll do the preview tonight and combine whatever else United news has broken. You know, what's next? We're still waiting to hear on Martial as well. I think that one's going to brew up as well. Thanks for watching. Please do drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all at 8 o'clock. And I hope you enjoyed the show.